Hey everybody, welcome to Making It. This is episode 134. I'm Bob Clagett here with David Picciuto.
What's up, Bob Clagett?
Not much, David Picciuto. What's going on?
I'm just hanging out, recording a podcast.
Right on.
What's the name of the podcast? What's the name? They say the name of it?
It's called Making It.
It's called Making It.
Making It. That's
Yeah.
right. Just wanted to make sure we all remember the name.
Yeah, it's a fantastic name for a podcast.
It is, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. We're also here with Jimmy Diresta. What's up?
Hey guys, how are you? How are you?
Doing well.
Good. I'm good. I'm tired. You guys know that I'm in LA. I flew here today. This is like the first announcement that I'm in LA. I'll be in LA for the week. I might mention it on my weekly vlog before this airs, but I'm here for a secret job. It's secret until further notice, until they tell me it's not secret anymore, which will probably be shortly. But I'm here working for people, and I want to let them announce it before I announce it. But it's a fun project. You guys know what it is, and then soon enough the audience will know. But it's very interesting. It's going to be probably one of the highlights of my career if it works out. We'll see.
That's amazing.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Yep.
I just flew here, though, so I'm exhausted. I haven't slept in 2 days because I had so much work to do before I left. I had to build this bar cart for Don Julio, and it had to be done before I left the city, or before I left New York State, rather. And so I was like working tirelessly on it to get it to be done to the point where then Brett could pack it and then ship it. So I put the finishing touches on it last night. Brett's got a little bit of buffing and polishing to do on it before it gets wrapped up, but I got it in time, thankfully. And then I had to go home and pack. So I packed last night everything I needed for 4 weeks here, and that wasn't easy. I had to break out my old suitcase I used to take to China all the time. It was covered with stickers.
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Man.
Yeah. So I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to Maker Faire. I'll find out more exactly tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Tuesday, and I'll be able with the schedule people. But I don't.
I have one thing to say to that.
Sorry.
That's it. That's all I got.
And to quote my brother, I'm sorry I exist. I had to be. Yeah, no, it's a bummer. I'm going to be running around like a chicken without a head for the next 4 weeks, so I don't think I'll be able to get out there.
Is Taylor going to come and visit you?
Yeah, she's actually going to drive. She's going to pick up her mother in Chicago and drive here. She's crazy. She wants to drive.
Oh, wow.
She wants to do the road trip. We were going to do it together, but there was no time for me. They need me tomorrow, so unfortunately.
She's really just doing that so you can bring you in like an ice pick and a bunch of knives.
Oh,
so
I got all
right?
that. I had to check a bag for 4 weeks. I had to check like I said, I had to travel like a Zero Halliburton case. It's like a fancy suitcase that I bought years ago because when I was traveling to China all the time, my cases would always break when I get to the other side. So I bought this fancy case, and it's been around the world like 10 times. And it was covered with stickers like China Airlines, British Airways, and I cleaned them all off last night. And now I'm going to start putting YouTube stickers on it. So it's fun.
Nice.
Yep. So I'm here, and it's exciting. And like I said, the news will be out shortly if you haven't figured it out already. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, David, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been working on new house and old house stuff and neglecting woodworking projects. So I'm still trying to figure out what we're going to make tomorrow. So I guess you'll find out on Thursday when the video comes out. We did finish up the drop leaf table, and it's a square table, which you think a square table would be really easy to make. And I made every single mistake you could possibly make on this
That
table.
is a very complicated joint that you did there.
Yeah, so a couple of things I did wrong was the major thing I did wrong, I didn't even notice until the project was done, was the drop leaf hinge is shorter on one side, longer on the other. The longer side has to go on the movable part. And then the barrel of the hinge doesn't go on the edge. It goes where the router profile ends, which is kind of hard to explain.
In the theoretical center. It goes in the theoretical center of the curve.
Exactly. And I had the hinge flipped around. And so the hinge is actually on the edge. And it still works. And you actually get to see this beautiful hinge. It's just done wrong. And the funny thing is, this is a sponsored video with Brusso. So I explained in the video that this was my mistake. The directions are super clear with the hinge. They say to do it this way, and I just didn't read them. I just didn't read them. And but the table came out fine. One of the things I didn't even think about was the drop leaf is one of the corners of the square table. And when I cut the corner off, and you put the corner back on, it still fits. But then when you route the two profiles, it actually makes that little corner smaller, and the whole thing is not a square anymore, if that makes any sense.
It's like it's got a diamond on the corner, a small diamond.
Yeah, so I had to recut, and then I tried to do a bullnose profile around the edge, and my router bit wasn't tight in the router, and it slipped a little bit, and it screwed that. Like, I made so many mistakes on this table. It came out great. It looks beautiful, but it still has some negative energies around it. When I look at it, I'm like, grrr.
Yeah. Well, at least you got it done.
I got it done, yes.
It looks really, really nice.
Thank you.
I was impressed with it.
Thank you.
And the good thing about something like that is, and I tell people all the time, my students, is that you did that and you made all those mistakes, you make it again and you'll probably make it perfect because you're fully aware of everything you did wrong.
You're 100% right.
Yeah. So,
for me, I can we have a little therapy session?
Sure.
Is that okay? I'm in a rut.
Okay.
Yeah. The move, which I don't want to continue to beat the dead horse of the move. Everybody knows we moved, but it's
we
really
could talk
tough.
about that. Like today's subject is about the move. So
moving, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe the next 4 or 5 weeks we should just talk about moving. Now it just like unsettles everything. Obviously, like everything's in boxes, everything's out of whack. But since I've been working up in the house and trying to, my office is almost done, so I've been spending a lot of time working down there. The shop is way more organized than it was last week, which is really good. I got a bunch of tools, like in usable places. And so now I'm getting close to the point to where I could actually start making projects that are like standalone projects again. And I sat down today thinking, all right, this week I need to make at least one, just a thing, like an object. And I looked through this giant list of stuff I have, and I was just like, none of these things are small enough for me to make in a few days, for one. And anything that is small enough is just uninteresting and just, I just am not into it. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to, when you get in that position and you're in between, giant projects and uninteresting things, what do you do?
Just start making something. Start tinkering, and that's really where I've come up with some really good projects. I've talked about this example before. Is that treasure chest, which has become such a classic item for me. So many people copy it and send me pictures of it. That little plasma cut treasure chest. You just start tinkering around with materials and kind of give yourself like a concept salad. Just write down a couple things, stick them in a hat, shake them up, see what's in there. Start making a list of names, things to do. Musical instruments, ukulele, just start going. You really got to just open your mind and just start doing a brain dump.
Sometimes I'll clean the shop like a really good clean organization, or I'll go in and calibrate a tool. And once the tool is calibrated, for whatever reason, I want to use it for something, and I force myself to figure out how to use it.
That's a great idea, Dave, because I do the same exact thing when I'm a little anxious or I don't have a good idea. I just start sweeping, and Welder used to say it all the time. He goes, "Oh, something's wrong. He's sweeping," because I just start anxiously sweeping the shop real thoroughly, and that exercise alleviates my thoughts, and then they come more clearly. And then that's when I usually I can organize my brain and organize some concepts, or just start to sort of subconsciously brainstorm and freely come up with stuff. So that's it. Go to the shop and just put together the saw that's still dismantled, or build that corner table, or organize a drawer. And it's a good piece of advice. Works for me.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I just need to start tomorrow doing that.
Yeah. Or use the time to, you said you haven't watched any YouTube. Maybe just use the time to catch up on your YouTube and see what other people are doing, and maybe one of those things sparks the thing that you have to work on right now.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, it's really weird that all of the ideas that I am excited about are things that would take a huge amount of time. I just and trying to get back on a schedule. I think that's part of it. I'm putting a certain amount of pressure on myself trying to get back into constant production, and maybe I'm just not there yet. Maybe I just need to let myself off the hook for that. But, when I think about getting back to that schedule, or not a schedule as much as maybe momentum, getting back to a productive momentum. I just think about I want to make an R2D2.
I saw your post earlier today.
That'll take like a year or 2 or 10.
What
or,
if you made an
whatever.
R2D2?
But I mean,
What if you made an R2D2 out of paper, like a desk size one, paper and Elmer's glue?
Yeah.
Back to the basics.
Yeah.
I think part of it is I'm beginning, which is something I've not really done in the past, but I'm beginning to second guess my gut reactions to things too. And I'm second guessing them based on the audience, which I used to not do at all. Like I used to just like, okay, I want to make a whatever that has a whatever, how can I make that interesting for me? That's what I would think about. And now I think I want to make this thing, but like, are people going to think that's interesting? Is it going to apply to enough people? And then I go like, whoa. That's not me. That's not
You
how
just
got
to
to
stop making it, because all the
ideas,
things, all the details that are in it, those are the juicy bits that you can't write into a script. You can't foresee them. Yeah, that's why you got to just stop making something. And, this is a great technique to show here, which you wouldn't have thought of first before you thought of the project first.
Right. That's a good point.
If we're on the therapy session, I've been second guessing myself, but in a completely different way. And I second guessing myself, am I still relevant to YouTube? Like I see, I know we're not supposed to compare ourselves
Dave,
to
you gotta lay
other
down
people.
For this one, you're gonna lay down, right?
sorry, I'm laying down now.
Okay.
And I'm seeing all these other channels just like doing so well and just blowing right past me, and I'm like, what? I know they're just doing something right, and maybe I'm not doing anything wrong, but I start second guessing myself, and like, do people still care? I'm not getting the shares from the magazines anymore, the Popular Mechanics and all that, and I'm still making money. I'm still able to pay the bills, but I
feel the same way, because Boing Boing used to share my stuff all the time. They haven't shared anything of mine in nearly 2 years. In the beginning, Boing Boing was always reposting my stuff. Boing Boing and a couple of other guys. It's been a while, and I definitely go through the same exact thoughts now and again. But I figured if every once in a while I'll come up with that one thing that is a runaway.
I do think like
few and far between
publications like that though, that we get used to promotion. We get used to like the attention from Popular Mechanics. In my mind, is a great example because it's like a well-respected, legit magazine, and that feels very validating to get shared by them. But then like when that doesn't happen, you have to think about like who they're trying to appease, who their audience is, and they have to be able to show varied content. They can't show the same 10 people or whatever over and over and over. They have to spread out, which makes each of us have fewer shares from groups like that. But I don't know. It's easy to take that stuff and be like, oh, is something wrong? But it could have nothing to do with us and more to do with them needing to like, bring in multiple types of content and share different types of people.
Sure. I think
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think one of the things that contributes to the worry is I just made this major lifestyle change of moving into a new house. And, we haven't sold the old house yet. So we have 2 mortgages. Like, did I make the right decision? I feel like I did. But I think it's just in my nature to second guess myself.
Yeah. I'm also finding, and I think this is probably relevant to you too, maybe both of you, that like transitional times in any part of your life, like any transition, you look at the end result of that transition from where you are in the middle of it. So like I look at from today, from this, 3:49 p.m. on this Monday, I look at our house and going forward, it's going to look like this. It's going to be piles of junk everywhere. There's going to be boxes. There's going to be unfinished rooms because I'm in the middle of it. And this is the lens that I see the future, through right now. But this is the transition. And once this transition is complete and we're settled and these things are, the boxes are put away and the rooms are finished, it's going to look really differently. And so at least for me, it's sometimes tough to look past the moment that I'm in transition and think like, this is just a temporary between A and B, and eventually we're going to be at B. Things are going to be very different from that point going forward. And there'll be a different transition, right? I mean, like for me, I'll get settled here, the house will settle and everything, and then the kids will become teenagers. that's a crazy transition, and that'll seem like it's going to go on forever, but then they won't be teenagers forever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So maybe take it that way, that you're transitioning right now, and the stuff won't always be in the state that it's in.
True. Very true.
Need to remind myself of that. Anyway, well, thanks for listening to me in my therapy session there.
Just another. Go ahead, Dick.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
I was going
to say, Jimmy, it's your turn. I'm handing it over to you.
There's a delay. I'm
Jimmy,
sorry. I have bad internet at this hotel. I was going to say a simple way to get out of like a rut, Dave or Bob, is to pick a simple project to make and figure out how to make it a little extraordinary. I always use the example of a napkin holder. Take a napkin holder and what could you make? How could you make a napkin holder extraordinary? How could you make a toilet paper holder extraordinary, or a simple shelf that can hide something? So you take the ordinary and try and figure out how to make it extraordinary, and that's always a good project, simple project.
I like that.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, David, did you have something? You guys were fighting over talking.
No, I didn't. I'll just let it go. Jimmy made a good point, and we'll end it with that.
I find that I'm coming up with excuses for myself too a lot. That like you're talking about extraordinary. My first thought was like, oh yeah, I'll use a different material. I'll make a napkin holder out of, I don't know, something else. And then I go, oh well, I don't have that material. I don't have any material here interesting enough to make it in a different way, so I can't use that idea. Such an awful excuse, right? But like that's where my brain goes. That like, oh well, I don't have time to make a really interesting design, or I don't have a unique material to use for it, or I don't have, and I just come up with these. Oh, I can't. Which is totally opposite of what you're saying, Jimmy. It's just like get in there, do it with whatever wood is laying around,
and that's a simple enough project that you could start over halfway through. You say, you know what, this is a dumb idea. Let me take a different approach.
Yeah. Excellent idea.
Yep.
Jimmy, do you need therapy with anything right now?
Yeah, I'm taking a big bite, taking this trip, and I just need someone to hug me and tell me I made the right decision.
This is going to work out so good for you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
No,
it is the right decision.
I have good vibes. It's either going to be like just a moment in time, or it's going to be a moment in time that probably is going to last. But that's the chances we take. But I'm actually away from New York. I'm going to be away from New York for 4 weeks, unless I actually force them to let me go home for at least a day or two. So I'm a little nervous. Make it fair. I'm a little nervous in the way that checks go to my mailbox and someone has to physically take them and deposit them, because I'm getting checks from several different sources. So, I can't have direct deposit from all my different clients. So literally get a check, I got to go. So Taylor's got an assignment ahead of her to go and deal with all that stuff. And that's the only thing that's really got me a little neurotic, is just being away from the shop for 4 weeks. But Brett's going to be there. He's got some stuff to do and deal with, and we'll be in touch and talking. And I have a shop at my disposal here. I will see it tomorrow for the first time at 7 a.m. And hopefully they'll let me play with there and make some stuff there, like I have in the past. Like when I used to go to Dickel and I would make stuff at at the Bullet Distillery. I made a couple videos from there. So who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's going to be exciting.
Did you bring the Nikon with you?
I didn't bring the Nikon. I brought my my little Canon, the one I keep on my hip, and I brought a bunch of GoPros, and I brought the drone. So we'll see. I'm going to make some epic shots of the napkin holders I'm going to make out of the seashells that are nearby.
Out of seashells? That's genius.
I'm near Malibu Beach. I'm 20 miles away from Malibu, California.
Nice.
So I'm going to go over there and celebrity watch.
Be hot in your black t-shirt?
Yeah. I'm going to go stand on the beach in my t-shirt and
man,
jeans.
this black t-shirt and leather jeans are super hot.
It's 80 degrees today. That's fine. Yeah.
So we're supposed to talk about the shop of the future, right?
That's right. This is a Popular Mechanics episode, the shop of the future.
Yes. So if I remember right, I think the topic was, what's the shop going to look like 100 years from now?
Yep. It came out of last week when we were talking about the laser bandsaw. Brainstorming on the laser bandsaw.
100 years seems unknowable.
Okay.
Do you want to bring it back maybe 50 years?
we can just talk about the shop of the future. We can break it down into whatever time frame we want.
All the way to the year 2000.
No. Let me get my black robe on.
Conan. Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Do you have any definitive thoughts?
I really think there's going to be less dust and maybe less waste, maybe safer. So going on with the bandsaw laser project that Jimmy and William came up with, maybe there's a technology in the near future where there's a miter saw and a table saw that you tell it what kind of material you're running through it, and it'll say wood, and it will only cut wood, won't cut your hand. There will be some sort of tube or suction to suck up any kind of smoke or exhaust, and there's no dust. Yeah. That's my very first thought, is some sort of laser based theme.
I had now what we're doing is really interesting. Is we're ideating on the future. Is that the right word? Ideating? On the future. Yep. Like we're kind of doing futurisms or whatever, like Sid Mead would do, the futurist, the guy that drew all the pictures. This isn't necessarily a shop thing, although I do have an interesting shop concept. I want, and I hope I didn't talk about this last week on our show, because I talked about it with Brett, I think. I want a microwave that I could stick my old computers in and then dial it, and then it would suck all the information out, and then it would just put it on the hard drive that's in the toaster next to it. So it could suck up. So, because I have computers, I don't have the charger for them anymore. I don't have the plug for them anymore. I don't have the super firewire that used to have like the one arrow pointed side. So I have all these computers, and I just want something to be able to energize it and read its mind and suck all the information out of it. So you could like stick a laptop in it like a big piece of toast, and then bing, pops out. It's like all the information's taken off. And then there's pictures of me, awesome. And there's like, because I got iPhoto libraries. I probably have 8 laptops. And I was just about to show you the laptop I'm talking on. It's got tape all over it. I have thumb drives taped to it. If I could send you a picture of my thing, you're going to crack up. All my laptops look like that. They end up getting covered with stickers, and I can't find my flash drive, so I just tape it to the front of it, so I always know where it is. And it would be nice to be able to access the information on all those computers. Like I said, all I have is the computer. I don't have any plugs to get in and out of them. I don't have any of the plugs to turn them into, to electrify them. So the idea of just taking old technology and just sticking it into something that could just absorb the information, and boop, it comes onto the drive, the new drive.
That kind of triggers a couple thoughts for me. Is what if your miter saw and your table saw has memory and loads a file just like your CNC or laser cutter would? So if if you make chairs for a living and you have 10 different style of chairs, okay, I need to make the legs for this particular chair. I load up that file, it moves the fence, it sets the blade height and whatever, and then I'm ready to go. You know what that is? That's like a lathe, like a repeater. Like it will hold a piece of wood and drag it over a table saw blade and move it in and out. Like a lot of guys do that, mechanically. They would basically do like a CNC table saw, or a way to like make a profile on a leg. That's certainly doable now. I mean, but somebody would have to actually implement that as a product.
Do you think something like that, what you're talking about, David, would be overkill for the general use? Is there a specific use case where that would make the most sense? Or are you talking about for basically all cuts? I think it would be overkill for somebody like us who we're always trying to make something different. I think it's a lot of the technology is going to come out of what contractors need and what businesses need. That repeatable thing where they can save time setting up. But if maybe you are somebody like me and you're doing craft shows, and I only make these wine holders every fall to sell at the winter craft shows. So instead of me bringing up my old plans and getting the tape measure out, I just load it up on the table saw or the miter saw, and I start making cuts. Interesting. Yeah, so I was thinking about this and thinking about where shops are now versus 50 years ago, as a way to see what the jump would be, And if you think about the wood shop, whether the home wood shop or the wood shop at a school in a shop class or something, the way it was 50 years ago or around there, there was a lot of heavy metal machine There were a lot of, even in schools, that's right, metal. There were a lot of lathes. There were a lot of big, Delta table saws, big hefty machines that these kids were learning how to use with probably a little supervision, but not a ton. And then, you jump forward 50 years, and now that stuff a lot of it has been removed. And even in home shops, the amount of heavy, sturdy machinery has been dropped down to a lot of plastic, a lot of smaller, a lot of cheaper stuff. And I think safety's part of that, especially in the school setting, where, they've just taken a lot of that out for liability. And so I kind of feel like that trend will probably continue in a way that the machines are going to have to be more safe, or they're going to be using mechanisms that are just there's just no way to get really hurt with a 3D printer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You can burn your finger, but you're not going to cut anything off probably. And so I kind of feel like as, in 50 years or so, you're going to have really limited, and this is a shame. I'm saying this as this would bum me out, but I kind of feel like it's going in the direction of you're going to have fewer bladed tools. You're going to have more enclosed, like a CNC machine that's in a big box where you stick the wood in, you close the door before it does anything, and then it does its thing. So I think in a school setting and even in a production setting, that's probably what's going to happen, which is kind of a bummer. But even in a home shop, those digital tools, whether people like them or not, are probably going to become a much more often used thing just to get stuff done,
Yeah, that's what I was going to...
CNC, 3D printer, whatever.
That's what I was going to say, is that the big 4x8 CNC is really... Because sheet goods are going to continue to come in 4x8 for probably a long time. And if you could just take a big piece of melamine or whatever it is and throw it onto a 4x8 machine and then lay out all your work on that one piece of board, there's where you can get some repeatable stuff and some stackable. You can make some topographical type of approaches to boxes and baskets and stuff like that. And that type of thing will become more and more sophisticated. But I was thinking in terms of the table saw and blade technology is going to keep getting better and better. And I kind of had a vision of a router, a central router that's stuck up out of a table, like a table saw, and that router blade became the actual blade, like the DeWalt blade. It could do all kinds of different things. And so instead of having a table saw with a 10-inch circular blade, you have a router that sticks up out of the table with a 1/2-inch kerf, for instance, maybe even smaller. And then that router spins so fast, and it could remove material enough where you could stick a sheet of plywood through it. You could do that now, but it becomes more practical so that the rotation will keep it against the fence, so it doesn't pull away from the fence as you push it through. It's just a thought. And then you could use that same thing for, just like a saw blade you would edge. So I don't know. I just kind of had this vision of an industrial router sticking through a table, that becoming like a DeWalt type of saw, or, saw in quotes, but using that just a rotational motor. Because you talk about making things a little bit simpler. If you just had a straight up direct drive rotational motor sticking up out of the table, you'd simplify the trunnions and everything else, and the belt drive systems and everything. Just a thought. And then I had a table. This is the table saw of the future that I thought of a long time ago, and it occurred to me today when preparing this concept to talk about. I had this idea years ago, and I think somebody's already doing it now. It's you know how the arbor in the middle of a 10-inch blade restricts the depth of cut, so you can really considering the table height. I mean the thickness of the actual work table. The arbor, you get out of a 10-inch blade, you can really only get a 3-inch cut, right? And I'll tell you, so the maximum.
Yeah.
If you could eliminate spinning that blade with the arbor at the center, and you could turn it from the edge. So imagine the saw blade has got sprockets all along the outside edge, like a series of sprockets radiating from the center, and it's just a solid disc with no hole in the middle. But you push a lever and it opens up 4 gears that open up, and then you put the blade in, and then it grabs them right on the edge gear. They're like a sideways gear. And it's not even a sideways gear, it's just a perforation around the outside edge. Make sense?
Yeah.
So you have you basically have a sideways sprocket, but they're just perforations in a flat disc. And you have your saw teeth at the end. And these 4 wheels grab that blade and spin it. So you could literally get out of a 10-inch circular disc, you can probably cut a good 8-inch curve, because the mechanism holding that blade is below the table.
As long as that mechanism doesn't fail and that blade comes out at your face.
Exactly. But no, it actually meshes into those teeth holes that are in the, so it literally meshes in it. This was something that I've been playing with this for just in sketches. I haven't actually. Years ago, I was playing with a plasma torch, a torch that would cut just by hand, and I cut out just the edge of a saw blade. So I cut out the whole entire middle. So basically, and I was just joking like it's like a throw thing, like from the James Bond, like the hat, brim of the hat that could throw and stick in the wood. Mm-hmm. So I had this basically like a Frisbee and with like a 1-inch band away from the teeth, the carbide teeth. And that's where I got the idea from initially a few years back. I never did anything with it. And like I said, I think somebody's doing something like it already. So the idea of just taking a saw blade and eliminating the arbor and just grabbing it right from the outside edge. And then this way you could still package a 10-inch. To get an 8-inch cut out of a circular saw blade, you need a circular saw blade that's going to be, 22 inches or something like that. Now you can still get an 8-inch cut out of a 10-inch blade. So patent it.
I have another idea, and this maybe comes out of the shaper router technology, but what if you had like a jigsaw or a circular saw that always cut to, like you used a special pencil and it left like a certain material that the tool could read and it always cut to that line, or tape, like you laid down tape and it would always cut right to the edge of that tape.
Right. That's a little bit like Shaper, cutting on the vector or next to it or not. I forgot about Shaper. Shaper is an incredible tool. I only got to play with it for a day. It was honestly, when I got the prototype, it was still a little bit complicated and had a tether to a computer and stuff. And so I had a little bit of a difficult time just kind of smoothly test driving it. But when I had it figured out and I was working it, man, what an incredible tool that thing is going to be. That's really going to be revolutionary.
Yeah.
It's really, really a great concept. If you figure it out once it gets all tweaked and everything, I know they're going into production any minute now. That's going to be fun to play with.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that could easily go into a school shop because it's just way safer to use.
Yeah.
But you can get really, you can have programmatic design out of it, but you can also just more safely use a router with, than the way you would typically use it. So stuff like that, I think, is like a really big leap forward in a couple of different directions, and it would be great in a school setting or in the setting of like a home shop. It's somebody that doesn't maybe do woodworking all the time, but they need to be able to do that type of stuff on occasion. Like they gotta have whatever. I gotta mortise some hinges from the door. And if that's not something you do very often, but you have a tool like the Shaper, like that can totally help you do that in a perfect fashion without having to learn a whole lot of stuff or be dangerous or
cutting out the perfect square in your drywall for a light switch.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah. That's a good point. I do think like 3D printers are going to be way bigger in the next 10 years. I think there's still going to be a learning curve because there's that software kind of like firewall in between you and what you actually want to accomplish. So software's, even the best software, is still an inhibitor for a lot of people. But I see 3D printing as being one of those things that's going to become way more ubiquitous. I can't say I feel the same way about like the laser or the CNC. Maybe for woodworkers, I could see the CNC becoming a lot more commonplace, in 50 years, it being something that most woodworkers had. But like the laser, I don't know. I like it, but do you think it's going to be like a really common thing?
Yeah, if it can cut, I used it 10 times yesterday. Just cutting mostly with the logos and stuff. But whenever I fire up the laser, now that I'm better understanding it, I start playing. I put my name on everything. See, I'm showing you my phone. But I start test cutting everything. And if I had a laser that was a little bit more powered, have a laser table saw, that would be awesome. It's always going to obviously leave a burn unless they figure out like a cold laser or something like that. But laser is fun. I can't wait to have a laser bandsaw. That is going to be cool. If it can cut 3/4 inch, that would be great.
Is there room in woodworking for water jet cutters?
Maybe. Right now, water jet cutting is very expensive, so I've been told. I don't have any personal experience. I mean, I know the Wazer that I did get to play with. That's my only experience with water jet cutting. The aggregate that gets squirted through the water is only a one-time use, and that's where a lot of the cost comes in. When we were at MIT, we visited MIT, and they run the machine, and it's called garnet. The garnet is mixed in with the water pressure. It's basically like the tooth in the cut, and it costs hundreds of dollars a day to run the machine because that stuff is just a one-time use. You can't recycle it and use it again, as far as I know. So that when it comes to water jet cutting, I mean, you could probably water jet cut wood and leather because it's so soft. It's kind of a cellulose-based material. You could probably just cut it without garnet, I'm assuming. But I'm going to get hate mail for saying that. I'm sorry. But,
well,
maybe, or even air pressure. Can you cut with air pressure? Like a fine.
I don't know.
Oh, we just.
I think you need some sort of an abrasive there too.
Yeah.
I think you would need something.
Sand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of like a sandblast cutter, and then it recycles the sand.
Yep.
But I mean, even things like that, like I can see them both being useful, that and the laser. But do you think they're going to be common? Way more common than they are now?
Well, when you think of table saws, it's funny. Do you guys remember when Johnny Cash's brother get injured with like a table saw in the beginning of the Johnny Cash biopic?
Oh yeah.
So like table saws, like from that generation, weighed thousands of pounds because they were just big giant cast iron sawmill saws. And then in the 40s and 50s, they started making these little tiny table saws just to handle dimensional lumber. And then when the lumber started changing shape, the table saw went to like a cabinet saw that could handle like a 4x8 sheet. And then the fencing systems started to accommodate so you cut a full 4x8 into two 4x4s and so on. And so the table saw has changed as the material has changed. So it'll be interesting to see if the material does make another change, if the table saw will change ultimately. They're going to start selling 4x8 sheets of 8-inch thick board. That's when you're going to need my table saw. The 8-inch thick blade.
You have to buy a giant truck just to be able to get a sheet of 4x8x8 home.
4x8x8 inches. It'll weigh 300 pounds, 500 pounds.
Yeah. Like, I just feel like, I guess it really depends on who you're talking about. Like, if you're thinking about the general hobbyist woodworker person, then that's, there's a specific set of tools that those people would use on a regular basis, which may change over time. I'm not saying they won't change. But then, like, a hardcore, like, furniture maker, they use different tools. Like, somebody who makes small handcrafts use different tools. So it's kind of hard to say, like, from a ubiquity standpoint, like what's going to be in all the shops. I guess when I think about the laser and like stuff like that, it still feels like even in the future, like putting logos on things with the laser is still going to be a pretty narrow swath of the woodworking. Mm-hmm.
Did you see that? Did you see that new laser thing that they kind of went around this weekend? The laser on a little tripod. You could laser things right on your table.
Oh yeah, is that real?
I don't know. I think it's a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. They're trying to raise the money for it.
It seemed too good to be true.
Yeah, I mean, it seems dangerous too. I mean, aren't lasers not supposed to come in? Well, here I am talking about making a bandsaw. But if someone's going to sell that thing I'm making one. We're going to make one off. We're not going to sell the bandsaw idea. But that's basically a laser bandsaw. Yeah. It doesn't have any enclosure and could burn through a tabletop, or even skin, of course. Or you could pick it up and point it at the cat's eyes, and the cat go cross-eyed. So
create Super Cat.
Yeah, give the cat a no.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was like a blue laser, which I know are, they have like it's a different frequency, they have different power and all this stuff. But it feels like that. I don't know. Maybe that's real. Somebody that knows can let us know if that's a real video or not. But it felt to me like, yeah, you could theoretically engrave a piece of paper with this little desktop laser box. Who knows?
I haven't seen this thing yet, so now I'm very curious.
It's like a cube on a
it's
tripod.
Just like a little, it looks like a little GoPro type, box on a tiny little tripod that sits on a desk, and they like put a piece of paper or leather or something in front of it, and it's just like going back and forth, like burning a little something.
But it's it's doing this, so it's like the laser. You got to imagine the laser is going out of focus because it's going to be Instead of it's on going like this, it's on like a little
swinging.
pendulum. It's like on a pendulum pivoty thing. It must be, because there's obviously no XYZ coordinates inside of it. So you probably have like an out of focusy kind of, if you're going to try and render something precise.
I like the word pivoty.
It's on a pivoty pendulum. Pendulumily.
Pivoty.
Well, you know, another thing to think about is how fasteners are going to work, how nails are going to go in. Now, I remember battery operated nail gun was like the holy grail of just 10 years ago. Now that everyone's making them, we just saw a bunch of them when we were in Nashville. So
yeah,
you know, and I'm sure there's other guys.
I think there's a whole market for knockdown furniture. People don't buy houses when they're 22 years old now. They rent places, and people are moving constantly, and we need furniture that's knockdownable. So what if there was like a Festool domino type machine that made some sort of joint? You pop in the piece of metal and it fits together either with magnets or screws or whatever. You know?
Have you seen? There's this thing that I've gotten emailed to me a few times from friends and relatives. It's it is like a domino thing that you could screw together blindly by spinning a magnet right next to the coupler.
Did see
Remember that? It went around on Facebook.
Yeah.
I wonder how well that works. You couldn't really dial something home with a magnet spin. You know what I mean? You couldn't really cinch it down, for a nice final stop. But that's that.
I don't know. I think you probably could.
You think so?
I mean, yeah, I think so. Do you remember, if you've ever seen it, the Smarter Everyday video with the programmable magnets? Did you ever see that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you just need to watch it. I'll link to it in the show notes because it's awesome. But essentially, they can put a piece of metal in this machine and they print the magnet. So instead of, typically a magnet is always the positives on the top, negatives on the bottom, and the field goes up, around, and comes back down. And so it's just like a loop. But they can print both of those field points or multiple points on the same surface. So you can have, like a positive shaped square area with negative all around it and negative on the inside of it. So you can have stuff that is only attracted to that square area or whatever the case may be. But they had a proof of concept, like, I guess it was like a cabinet latch, to where like you could only get this thing to latch if you put a magnet on it and you twisted it in a certain direction or something like that. And then the whole thing would latch, and there was no handle. There was no, it's just, I don't remember the specifics of how that part of it worked. But when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that could change a lot of stuff. And I haven't heard since then if they've, put that stuff into production anywhere, if it's being commercialized. I'm sure it is, but it seemed like it could be a really big thing for what you're talking about, David, for furniture that can be really solid, but at the same time can be knocked down. I do wonder, though, if we are, as a society, are so used to things being disposable at this point that knockdown, repackable furniture just wouldn't make it. You know what I mean? I think people are so used to just like, well, my IKEA table worked in that apartment. I'm going to throw it away and just buy another one when I get to the new place or whatever.
The other thing, though, too, is fashion. We're a society where we just constantly buy things because we need something to make us feel better. I constantly like, if you buy a GoPro and in a month from now the new GoPro comes out, you're like, oh, you look at the one in your hand and you're like, why did you make me buy you? Now I got to buy a better one. So it's like the same thing with phones and furniture and like every move is an opportunity to spend every bit of credit you got on your credit card to get something new. It's like, oh, while we're moving, why don't we just get a new rug and a new couch and a new piano and let's replace the doors because the couch looks so much better next to the new doors. So that's the society we live in, and it doesn't stop, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. Especially
that's true.
Making things easier, like going to Home Depot constantly. And every time you go there's a new special. It's like I have 17 toolboxes, but I need another one because that one's so cool looking, and it's only $500. Where the first one I bought 7 years ago was $2,000. I'm like, look at that, that's only $500. I need that. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because we just moved. So we've not really fallen into a lot of those traps, but I've seen a lot of that in our, like when we were leaving, we said, should we take our couches or should we leave them and donate them and get new ones there? The couches were like 15 years old, so they've done their job. So we left them and we got new ones here. We've talked about the couches and stuff. But it was really interesting. Like, we have the opportunity to move into a new house and buy all this stuff. Like, what's worthwhile and what's just us being like consumers, and we just want to have a new whatever, you know. And it's funny because we have never had a TV in our bedroom ever. 15 years of marriage, we've never had a TV that we've well, we put one in there one time when we didn't watch it, so we took it out. Well, the way our house is set up now, there's a door that I have to put on our boys' room. So right now, if we watch TV in the living room, they can hear it. Keeps them awake, so we haven't been watching TV at night. So I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we bought a TV to put in our bedroom temporarily so we can watch it for a little while? And then when it's done, I can bring it down to the office in the shop, and it can be one of my big monitors down there, and I can find a use for it. And it was so weird because like 15 years of like, no, we don't need a TV in our bedroom. And we were both just like, yeah, let's do that. That's fine. And so I went to look up the TV, the same TV that we have in the living room. It's half the price of what it was when we bought it last Christmas.
Yep.
Half the price. That's insane. And so, of course, I'm going to buy it. I'm like, hey, that's like half the price of what it's doing. So I bought two. I have now. Yeah, exactly. So I have two of the same TV, way bigger than I need for the bedroom. But it was like, $600. I mean, that's like totally reasonable for TV that we don't need.
I had almost the exact similar experience. Maybe not. I was packing my bags this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, or really like 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And I want to take my drone with me, and it didn't fit anywhere. And I literally I like went online and I looked up the Spark. I'm like, all right, I'll just buy the Spark when I'm there. I want it anyway because it's smaller than this one. And then I like held it up and I'm like, this is tiny. I have the Mavic. It's tiny and it's like brand new. I used it like 15 times. I am not going to buy the Spark unless someone hands it to me for free. I am not buying it. So I made that, that was like the mental machination I had. So I made some room in my shoulder bag and I stuck it in there. So I was able to bring it with me. And I said, let me buy the Spark when I get there. It'll give me something to do, keep me occupied. And I'm like, no. You have this and it works perfect. Do not do that.
So when the GoPro 6 comes out in another month or so, are you going to throw away all 25 of your GoPros and get a bunch of 6s?
No, I'll just add it to the lineup. I'll get one. I'll get one 6 because my 5 looks like it was in a rock tumbler. You should see my 5. It's like so beat up. My 5 session just gave out, and I just had to buy a new 5 session. I just like bought it. I walked in and bought it at a store and just loaded it up right there and then. What?
Jimmy, you've been wearing your GoPro around your neck, haven't you?
Yeah. Where is it? Yeah, I wear it on a beaded chain.
I think it's a brilliant idea, and I've actually thought about stealing that idea, but maybe with my phone. So my phone is just a little bit more convenient, and I can start documenting things throughout the day. But yeah, that's brilliant.
So this
it's
morning,
always on the ready.
Yeah, it's always there, and then like almost nobody notices it. Nobody like looks down and goes, "Is that filming me?" Like
That's what I was gonna ask.
Like once or twice, and like since I've been wearing this like kind of pretty consistently. And if I walk in and it's like weird, and it's like I just like if I'm gonna have like a personal conversation with somebody, I just tuck it in my shirt so they don't even see it. But I mean, of course, I don't record anything I don't need to. But this morning when I went through the TSA in Albany, they started fiddling with my backpack because it's got the drone in it. It's got 17 GoPros in it and hard drives. And I was like, this should get interesting. So I just pushed the button. Like I just offhanded, like it's like when you see a cop, all of a sudden the body cam goes on. So I just pushed the thing on, and then I just stood there while they literally went through and took open I have like all kinds of little zipper bags, and they went through everything, and it all got down to like one little thing of hand cream. You guys ever get the free man tools? It's like hand cream and face wash. It's like this thing they promoted like a year ago. They sent it to everybody, and they thought we were all going to talk about it. Now I'm talking about it, and the guy goes, "Dude, would you like to check your bag?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to check my bag for 3-ounce tube of hand cream." I could just throw it away, but I had the whole experience on the body cam, which I forgot I turned on like 8 or 10 minutes before the whole experience went down. When they held my bag back, I'm like, oh, let me just turn this on, see if this gets interesting. And the two of them, like a total trainees, they're looking at each other like, is this illegal? Is
this
like,
dangerous?
I don't know. What did the manual say? They're like two young guys. They're probably in their mid-20s. They're like TSA guys. And they kept looking at each other for the answers, and neither one of them knew them. Anyway, I was able to get out of there, but I got the whole thing on tape. That was a long story.
For a selfish reason, can you tell me how much of that footage actually makes it into your vlogs? just curious to how well that works out for you.
Oh, I'm very, very selective. Like if I'm going to be, well, this week the vlog is going to be, I was walking through the park the other day and I just turned it on to see guys like juggling and stuff. And I walked up to this couple that play the banjo and the upright bass. Incredible. And I taped the whole thing from the camera hanging on my neck. And I said, can I use it in my vlog this week? I took his card. I'm going to promote him. Incredible, incredible, incredible. So it was pointed up a little bit so you don't really see like his feet in the banjo, which was kind of, my mistake. Now I know to kind of point it down further. But this week I'm going to have a couple of bits and pieces in there for sure. And it's also good too when last week I unloaded the metal tools and I had it hanging on my stomach. So it was like kind of right at my chest. And so I turned it on just in case anything good came out of it. And I looked and I'm like, if I roll this in fast forward, it'll look okay. So I do get stuff that I'm kind of on the fence whether I need or not. That's the point. It's like, do I really need this? Mm-hmm. Or do I not? I'll look at it later. If it looks good, I'll take a few seconds out of it. And
I'm wondering if you could, you have it hanging on your neck and maybe hot glue like a stick on the bottom of it so you can pull it out and use that stick up against your body as almost like a steady cam.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's funny. I just walked in when I got into the LA airport. I kind of I grabbed it and I turned on the camera just walking through. And then the thing in LA that's like the familiar airport thing was right outside the window. So I just kind of held it out from my chest a little bit, but with my hand. So it wasn't bouncing all over. So I can get a couple of... Mm-hmm. Literally, I need like 10 or 15 seconds of like readable footage.
Oh, you do have the chain, so you could use that almost as a steady, like you hold the chain up against your body and then pull it away from you.
Last week I had Chippy was running through the grass near a barn, and I just held it on the chain right in front of him as he was walking. So I didn't even have to bend down or anything, and the chain gave it a little bit of a steady cam feel, a little bit.
Yeah, I remember seeing that clip.
Yeah,
when he was running through the grass.
He was just
like, yeah,
look. Just on a chain.
But it didn't have any, like, I guess you just have to be careful not to get it to twist and, like, because it could start swinging back and forth. It absolutely
did, and that's why, I'm always looking for just, like, 10 seconds, like 5 good 10 seconds of something. And if it's cool and it's not long enough, I just stretch it out. Put a slow song under it.
There you go. Jimmy tricks.
Yeah.
That's right.
Stretch it or compress it. Any other good shop stuff? Like, the idea... What I can't stand is I love Roberts tips screws, that the Canadians use all the time. It's just a little perfect square. For screws, I love those. I just haven't converted my whole shop to them yet. I'm still using Phillips. And the Phillips tips, I remember as a kid when I was working with my dad, the Phillips tips would last for weeks at a time. Now, like the tip snaps off. And they always dull.
Yeah.
They dull so much faster than they ever did when I was a kid. It's really obvious. I remember like... My dad had like 2 or 3 extra tips. Now you need a bag of them when you go on a job because you break the tip right off and and then the screws are all really bad. They're not being made very well anymore. They break off so easy. When you're halfway through a piece of hardwood, they'll just snap off or they strip out.
I had a lot of people ask me over the past couple of months for some reason, like why I don't use Torx screws, which is like the 5-star, 5 or 6, whatever. Yeah. And it was one of those things like, I don't know, I've just always used Phillips, like I've got tons of them. I mean, that's kind of what I've always used. And the only time I've ever used that Torx style head is decking screws because about the only decking screws that are coated that you can buy have that head type in them.
That's right.
And they work great. I just never even considered switching over, like you said, switching over the entire shop to use a different type. I guess it'd just be a matter of starting to buy those when I buy new things, but I always just gravitate towards what I know. Grab Phillips.
Yeah, and they're easy, and then like they always end up being like the thing you buy when, like I'm not doing many installs lately, but whenever we would go and do an install, and of course we never had the exact screw we needed, so we'd got to go buy a box of 1 5/8, so a box of 2 1/4, and so you always end up with extras of everything because I don't have them with me on the job site, and I bring them back to the shop, and I got 5 boxes at the shop, but I didn't bring one, so now I have 6 boxes that I used 5 screws out of, and that's why I end up with so many Phillips, and it's hard to kind of convert back to like a Torx or the Canadian square head. What did I call it?
The Roberts or Robertsons? I forget. But yeah,
I'm not familiar with that name, but
I would love to see an improvement in screws. And I mean, I always thought of like a little, and I think they make them. I just haven't seen them used on a wide basis. Where when the tip goes in, it grabs a little bit. So like you have like the Phillips head with like a little tiny T on the end of each blade, so that when it goes in, it locks in both directions. So it has a little bit of give when you stick it in, but then when you turn it, it locks under a little ledge. But I think that's a matter of manufacturing the Phillips with like a little undercut inside each head.
Oh, yeah. That'd be way tougher to manufacture.
Yeah, on a a million per day type of basis. So I don't know. I would like to see improvements with screws. But magnets.
Yeah. Magnets would be awesome. Oh, no. We lost David's audio.
All right, I have to switch microphones here. So I had one last question about the future. Where do you see video content creators and their shops? What do you think would be different for us?
Ooh.
How we film or document or show off our projects?
I think, well, I mean, there's always going to be a wide range of, there's always people who are just getting started who use whatever they have on hand. And then there's people that have been doing it longer. And there's always going to be that cycle of those, some people will start, they'll be doing it longer over time and they'll improve their equipment and all that stuff. But I think as kind of the first couple of generations of content creators, independent content creators are getting more mature in their shop and in their production, I think we're probably going to see much higher production values in the next 5 years, which is only going to continue, I think, to cycle in the next 50 years. You're going to have multiple generations of people who have built up from using their phone to having a full-on production, video production house in their shop. And I think that's just, whereas now, there are a handful of people who always stick out as wow, man, their stuff looks really great. They do all this extra work in editing. I think that number of people who are at that level of quality is just going to be way bigger.
Is that going to create a greater barrier to entry?
I don't think so, because I think there's always going to be that that group of people who are just getting started and they're using their phone or their whatever holograph watch or whatever it's going to be in 50 years, to
Calculator
to get
watch.
Started, and they're going to use whatever they have, and there's always going to be that group of people who are just want to do it, and they don't care what if it's the best thing in the world, they just want to get it done. And as they get better, there'll be another group of people behind them who will come in and say I'm going to use my holograph watch to shoot this video of me making a laser bandsaw or whatever. So that's my opinion, but
I like the gantry cameras, and I wish I used them more often. The steady cams, the little GoPro steady cams and the Osmos, those kind of cameras. I like using those because I have a love-hate relationship with the tripod, but I need to use the tripod because I speed things up. If I do any handheld stuff and it's the only footage I have, I begrudgingly speed it up because it looks horrible because it's handheld. So I definitely...
I got a tip.
Go ahead.
I got a tip.
Yeah.
Shoot those things in 60. My editor told me to start shooting those things at 60 FPS so that he can slow them down and get a smoother movement.
Oh, okay. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to try and use that thing more often, the whatever it's called. What is the GoPro version called?
The Karma Grip.
The Karma Grip. Yeah.
So I have this new, it's a monopod, but it's got feet on the bottom.
That's awesome.
So the feet doesn't take up much of a footprint. And so in a small shop, when I need to use it as a tripod, it works great. Now, the camera could easily be pushed over. You just have to be more careful with it. But it's super cool. It's out of the way now.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, have you seen any stability problems with that? Have you almost knocked it over several times or anything?
No, but it's one of those things I do worry about. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a little kind of like a C-shaped holder on the wall. And so whenever I'm not using the camera goes in that little holder.
Good idea.
To make sure.
Nice. What you got?
I want to do the football thing, that whether you see the football players, the camera's right over them as they run. I'm going to do that in my new shop. So I'm going to have a cable that goes from one side to the other. So when I get my sheet of plywood and we do the overhead shots, there's so many times now we've done the overhead shots, but we put them on this 25-foot pole, which I got to pack up and put away. But I want to make something where it's always like, okay, go to the overhead GoPro, and it's just always ready to go for those table saw shots.
Can't you fly your drone in your shop?
I can, but it gets, because there's some interference inside there. It's a little tricky. The GoPro's easy because it's just I could just do a static shot and you see the equipment and the material moving as opposed to. Go ahead.
I have a suggestion if you don't want to make it real complicated, is to have it so it rides on rails, right? But there's a down slope. So you set it on one side and it slowly goes down to the other side. But you have something where you can change the tension on there to change the speed of the camera moving as it goes across the shop.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, and you could put like a cam on one end of it, so you could turn the cam to raise and lower one end of it, so you could have the slope going either direction from one end of the shop to the other.
Wow. So then I'm gonna have to like run around the shop with like the nail gun in my arm like it's a football, and the camera's gonna have to follow me. So I run and hurdle all the stuff in my shop. That'll never happen. No, but I like the idea of overhead cam that's always ready. So that's a thought. Because I mean, now that I got space and the first couple of videos I did in that shop, when I did those overhead shots, everybody was just like blown away. So was I. When me and Brett were looking at it, we were looking at it on the iPhone, remotely, and we're like, "Whoa, this is really cool." So I want to try and do more of those.
Awesome. Well, we got any other thoughts on the shop of the future to the year 2000?
Let's see what people want to put in.
Yeah.
Let's see if anybody has any interesting ideas. Do we want to make a hashtag so that people can listen to this Friday and hashtag and we can see it?
Yeah, shop of the future.
There you go.
That's
Shop
a good
of
hashtag.
the future.
That's a good one.
Cool.
That's what it's called.
All right, cool. Well, you guys been watching anything? Anything new?
Nothing new. I'm going to pick a video that I talked about last week, but I want more people to see it. And that's the Andrew Klein video called Curves and Resawing with One Bandsaw Blade. And I just rewatched it again today, and it's such a great idea, so I'm going to throw that in there as my pick.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about Andy Klein in my vlog this week. I'm just going to talk about my video that came out on Rockler, so I'm going to be selfish. My new cabinet build is out on Rockler right now, and it takes a long, slow build on the Rockler videos, but I'm up to episode 4 of my Rockler series, and I'm really proud of the work I'm doing over there. They're coming out really good, and I have for my obligation, I'm going to make 6 videos in total for them, and then hopefully I'll get to make more after that series is over. But I just made a cabinet that goes inside the foyer in my old farmhouse, so check that out. It came together. It was like one of the most grueling, difficult things because it all came in all at the same time, and I was moving in, and it was a very difficult, grueling process, but it all comes together in 15 minutes in the video. So check a look.
Nice. Yeah, it's good looking.
Thank you.
I know we've talked about him before, but like I watched one of Trustin Timber's videos, whose name is not Trustin. I was bummed to find out. His name's Cody. But anyway, he's a really cool guy. We've talked about him before, but like I haven't seen, because I said I haven't been watching a lot of stuff lately, I haven't seen a lot of the new things that he or anybody else has put out. But I went back and watched one recently where he fixed a canoe. I think they found a canoe like in the river that was all beat up and stuff, and they brought it back, and he did fiberglass repair on it. And it's just so cool. Like he's just really good at telling stories with very little talking, if ever. His stuff is just shot really well. He has like great pacing with music, and he's a filmmaker who also happens to be a woodworker, and it's just really cool stuff.
It's great.
So,
He came out of nowhere with such a passion for this business and what we all do. And he's such a passionate dude. Real sweet guy.
Yeah, definitely. So go check him out, and I guess got to thank our Patreon supporters, of course, especially Wise Old Dal, Jedediah Schultz, Evan and Caitlin, Corey Ward, Malton Make, A Glimpse Inside, Works by Solo, Torble Terry, I got it right again, and Make Build Modify. We've had lots of new supporters on Patreon, and we're grateful for it. It's really awesome. Those people who support us there at any level get an after show where we just yammer on for another 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes. So, and if you are one of those people that has access to that extra after show thing, you can log into Patreon now and get a link for an RSS feed that's just for that show. So you don't have to listen on the Patreon website anymore. You can get the feed and put it into your podcast player. So you can listen right after you listen to this one.
Beautiful.
That's awesome.
Well done.
Yeah. So that's it, I guess, for this week. Thanks to all that people that support us over there, and we'll see you next time.
Later on.
Yeah, bye, guys.
Bye.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what I love. You know what's coming to mind? You know that song by Randy Newman, I Love L.A.? I wonder if I'm going to love... Yeah, I wonder if I'm going to love L.A. We'll figure that out in time.
You got 4 weeks to find out, so...